The parenchyma tissue is a simple permanent tissue. It's called a simple tissue because the cells are all of the same type. It's a permanent tissue because it is unable to divide. It is also called the basic packing tissue. And this is because it is present in all the soft parts of the plants. Now, to learn the characteristics of parenchyma, the cells are relatively unspecialized. They don't have a special function as such except as a packing tissue. Of course, some cells have chlorophyll and they perform photosynthesis, and there are another bunch of cells which help the plant to float. They have thin walls, they are live cells and loosely packed with space between the cells. Now, for the functions of the parenchyma, one main function of the parenchyma, it stores food and nutrients in the different parts of the plant, maybe the root, the stem. Here is a picture of a green parenchyma, and this is a parenchyma that contains chlorophyll, and because it contains chlorophyll, it can perform photosynthesis. So parenchyma with chlorophyll perform photosynthesis and is called Sclerenchyma. Some special parenchyma have air spaces, and because of these air spaces, they give buoyancy to the plant. There's an upward force in this plant and helps him to float. Such a parenchyma is called Sclerenchyma. Here you can see examples of water plants. And these water plants are able to float because they all have parenchyma with spaces, and that is Sclerenchyma. This also is a water plant. It also contains the tissue Sclerenchyma, which helps it to float. This is the second type of simple tissue. Sclerenchyma is also a simple tissue because it is made up of a single type of cells. Now, for the characteristics of Sclerenchyma, here the cells are living. The cells are elongated, they are irregularly thickened at the corners, and they have very little intercellular space. The irregular thickening, we can see it here. Only at the corners. The thickening is only in the corners. The location of the Sclerenchyma, it's in the leaf stalk below the epidermis. Now, for the function of the Sclerenchyma, it allows easy bending of the various parts of the plant without breaking. It's mainly responsible for the flexibility of the plants. And that we have always seen around, that plants are very flexible. Even the coconut tree, it would bend, but it does not break that easily. This is because of the Sclerenchyma. The Sclerenchyma helps the plant to bend without breaking. Now, for the last type of tissue, that is a Sclerenchyma. The characteristic of the Sclerenchyma are the cells are dead. This is the only tissue where the cells are dead. So there is no nucleus in the cells. When you draw the cells, you do not draw a nucleus because the cells are dead. The walls are thick with lignin. You need to remember this, lignin. The cells are narrow and long. The cells are so filled with lignin that the lumen of the cell is narrow and long. There is no space between the cells. This tissue makes the plant very hard and stiff, and it gives a lot of mechanical support to the plants. Where do we find the Sclerenchyma? The Sclerenchyma is found in the husk of coconut. This husk of coconut is so strong, we even use it to make ropes. It is also found in the vascular bundle. This vascular bundle, we will learn it more in detail in the next slides. And that's a bundle, that's a tissue that is responsible for taking in water and food, for transporting water and food to the different parts of the plant. And we find Sclerenchyma also present in the vascular bundle. The sclerenchyma also is present in the hard covering of nuts and seeds. In this picture you can see the walnut. The hard covering of the walnut is made of sclerenchyma. Here's the cashew nut, the hard covering of the cashew nut, the hard covering of the almonds. These are all sclerenchymatous cells. They are all dead cells, and the main function of the sclerenchyma is to give mechanical support. It is a tissue that makes the plant hard and stiff. So for the functions of the sclerenchyma, one function, mechanical support, and makes the plant hard and stiff. Let's go ahead and compare the three tissues, the parenchyma, collenchyma, and the sclerenchyma. For the parenchyma, the cell wall is thin and there is no thickening. When it comes to collenchyma, the cell wall has got thickenings only in the corners. So the thickenings are only in the corners. But when we come to sclerenchyma, there is heavy thickening all around the cell. Now, since the parenchyma is a living cell, this is a live cell. These two are also live cells, but the cells are dead. The sclerenchyma cells are dead. And since they're live cells, they have a nucleus. This also have a nucleus because they're live cells. Sclerenchyma cells have no nucleus. When it comes to intercellular spaces, in parenchyma there are large intercellular spaces. However, in the collenchyma, the intercellular spaces are less because there is thickenings in the corner. And for sclerenchyma, no intercellular spaces. All the cellular spaces are filled with lignin. Now to take up the function. In parenchyma, it's mostly storage of ingredients. For collenchyma, it is the flexibility. It gives the flexibility to the plant. And for sclerenchyma, it gives mechanical support. Just to go over this again, have you seen the corners here in the collenchyma are thickened? But when it comes to sclerenchyma, the thickening is just all over the thickening. Here it is only in the corners. And the parenchyma have no thickenings at all. We'll now go ahead and learn about the epidermis. The epidermis is the outermost layer of the plant. It is just made up of one cell. Here I have marked the epidermis, and since it is the outermost layer of the plant, it is protective in nature. The cells of the epidermis are very closely packed to make sure that the inner parts of the plant are well protected. It is just one cell thick. Being protective in nature, the cells of the epidermis are very closely packed. They form a single layer with no intercellular spaces. The cells also may have an outer thicker covering to protect the inner parts of the plant. Outer protective covering. If we were to zoom in into the epidermis of the leaf, we would see small openings. Each of these openings are called the stomata, and the stomata are guarded by kidney-shaped cells called the guard cells. These cells control the opening and the closing of these stomata. Stomata can be defined as small pores present in the epidermis of the leaf. They are enclosed by kidney-shaped guard cells. You can see in the picture here, these guard cells, they surround the stomata and control the opening and closing of the stomata. The functions of the stomata are exchange of gases. We know that the plant takes in carbon dioxide and gives out oxygen. This exchange of gases takes place through the stomata. Another important function of the stomata is transpiration, which is loss of water in the form of water vapor. The plant loses water through this stomatal opening in the form of water vapor. Entry and the exit of some gases like carbon dioxide and oxygen, and also we have the exit of water. A large amount of water is lost through the stomata. In desert plants, the epidermis is covered by a thick coating, waxy coating called the cutin. The desert plants need to prevent or reduce the loss of water by transpiration. Hence, the epidermis gets covered with this waxy covering called cutin, and this cutin prevents the transpiration of water. In roots, the epidermis plays a very important role in the absorption of water. These are the epidermal cells, and if you've seen, these epidermal cells have got these extensions. So here if you have the root, this is the epidermal cells of the root, and each of these epidermal cells have these little extensions here, and these extensions are called root hairs. They increase the surface area for the absorption of water. So these are the root hairs, extensions of the epidermal cells. You can see here, this is what I've zoomed out here. They help in the increase the surface area for the absorption of water. Here is a picture of a cork, and these corks are used to close bottles, especially of wine bottles. This cork is made from a material that is obtained from the bark of certain trees. The epidermal cells of these trees get coated or get loaded with a material called suberin, and hence the cork cells are formed. Now the cork cells are dead and compactly arranged without intercellular spaces. Suberin makes cork impervious to gases and water. It is protective in nature. Here I've made a mistake. This is not cuticle. I wrote it as cuticle. This has to be cutin. The waxy thick coating on the epidermis is called cutin.